Good afternoon and happy Monday, everyone. This is Dr. Aparajita Jeetagunta, founder and CEO of AJ Rao LLC, a boutique firm and that specializes in creating comprehensive and custom built strategies and solutions for leadership development and intentional inclusion. And I am also the creator of the C3EB Summit, which I have so much news about that, but that's for another time. Today, what I wanted to do in this live session is leave you with some real how-tos on something that I spoke about on Thursday, on my Thursday live stream last Thursday. Today, what I want to talk to you about is, how do you go about believing in yourself permanently? Because on Thursday, I spoke about how the first real step to anything and everything in life starts with you believing in yourself before anything else. But of course, that was kind of vague, and it was also very kind of high level, cerebral. Thinking. And so today I wanted to give you some concrete steps on how do you go about believing in yourself permanently. And this is something, that sounds obvious, but we know it's not obvious, right? Because if it were, we wouldn't have self-esteem issues. We wouldn't have self-belief issues that plague most of us, and we would not be going through these roller coasters of forward momentum and then the dip and now believing in yourself and so on and so forth, almost every single day of our lives. To put it very bluntly, we would not be as lost or as unhappy as most of us are, as many of us are rather, if we actually knew how to believe in ourselves. Now, I want to go through these steps by using a case study today. But before we get into that, let me preface this by saying that the 3 steps that you are going to learn today are 3 general steps. The individual implementation really depends on the individual, their situation, their context, their perspective, where they are in life, what they're trying to do, so on and so forth. But these 3 general steps, at least in my experience, have always been successful for me to continue to believe in myself, and have also been successful in my work with my clients in helping them believe themselves. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to, start off with the bottom line and give you the 3 steps first. And then we are going to very quickly dig into the source and the underlying aspects of these 3 steps. So here are the 3 steps to believe in yourself permanently. Step number 1. You have to make your invisible visible. What that means, we are going to get into. But bottom line is that as much as we think we know ourselves and as much as we think that we are presenting our best version, our best self out to the world, oftentimes we don't. There is a lot of baggage that all of us carry into any situation, whether that is in business, at work, in our personal lives, in our community service, volunteer lives, or anything else. We carry a lot of baggage, and that baggage comes with a lot of assumptions. And what this baggage does ultimately is it renders parts of us invisible to ourselves. So step 1 always has to be, you have to make your own invisible visible to yourself. Because unless you see yourself fully, unless you see yourself as a whole person fully, with all of your baggage, you won't be able to do that with another person. And if you're not able to do that with another person, and if you're not able to do that with yourself, then you, no matter what you do, you will never feel like you quite belong And you will never be able to include yourself in your best capacity or include others in their best capacities. So, step number one, again, make your own invisible visible to you. Then we come to step number two, your fears. Anytime we make our own invisible visible, especially when we look at things that we think are negative about ourselves, it is natural and invariable that we face a lot of fears. We face a lot of that inner critic voice in our heads that says that we're not going to be enough, we're not good enough, we're not worthy enough, this is whatever we're trying is not going to work, we're going to fail, all of these sort of negative talks. Now, the thing is, fear, and that negative talk creates fear, a fear mentality, a scarcity mentality in us. And the thing is, fear has an evolutionary purpose. Fear helped our hunter-gatherer ancestors way back in the day survive. Fear was a matter of life and death way back in the day. But the thing is, while our bodies have been wired for this ancestral ancient fear, our environment has developed and evolved way past it. So the source of many of our fears now don't actually make sense in the way that fear works as an evolutionary mechanism. For instance, we are not going to walk out onto the street and have to worry about where that saber-toothed tiger is going to come and eat us up from, or where we're going to get crushed by a woolly mammoth, or where we are going to run into another tribe somewhere in the forest, or another clan, or another group of people who are going to attack us in the middle of the forest. Granted, we live in an urban jungle right now, and with all of the systemic racism stuff, that fear is still palpable. But the rest of them, our fears that used to be tied to our survival, many of them, not all, many of them are no longer tied to our survival. But our brains, when we are afraid, still operates from that level of survival. Whereas right now, we're not at that level of survival, right? So we really have to address our fears. We have to address the source of our fears. We have to unpack them, and we have to understand what is the root of these fears. More often than not, it is just uncertainty, just because we don't know what is going to happen. Now, that's not fear. That's just not knowing. And how can we know what we don't know until we know it? And how do we know it? We either do something and learn, or we learn it from other people's experiences, right? So addressing the real source of your fears, getting to the root cause of what it is that you're afraid of, when, that's disallowing you from believing in yourself wholly and completely, and then unpacking that. That's always step two. Now, that has to happen after step one, which is, again, making your invisible visible to yourself. Because unless you actually do that, you don't even know what real fears and real concerns and real worries that you have. So that's step two. Now, step three is actually the simplest one of all of them, but it's the one that trips us up the most. Make tons of mistakes. Once you've made your own invisible visible to yourself, once you've realized who you are and what you're made of, and once you've addressed the source of your fears, act on them. Lean in and act on them. Make a ton of mistakes, because those mistakes are what are going to help you realize, hey, it's okay. I made a mistake. I'm still here. And guess what? I even learned something because I made these mistakes. So those are overall the 3 steps. Now I just created this quick PowerPoint slide, one slide, to show you how all of this ties into you believing in yourself permanently. And this is where I'm going to bring in this case study of this person who was constantly told that, and this is somebody who presents as a cisgendered female, heterosexual female, who was constantly told that she's not good enough, who was constantly told that failure is not an option, who was constantly told she had to be perfect, who was constantly just told all of these messages in the course of her growing up, everything she heard from society, all of the beauty standards that she saw in society, all of the communication standards, leadership standards, all of it. It was constantly, it was a constant battle of this person, this woman, fighting with herself, really. And in the process of fighting with herself, she didn't even know her own voice. She didn't even know where she belonged. She didn't even know what she was capable of. Now, by following these 3 steps, by first making her own invisible visible to herself, then addressing the root of her fears, which again, they weren't fears. They were just uncertainties because of the conditioning that she went through, because of all of the brainwashing that we went through. And a point about that brainwashing, y'all, all of us go through it. That's how our society has been created. That's how our society functions and operates, based on these judgments from others. So all of us have this brainwashing. We go through it in our formal education system when, we have to show our work. And if we miss something, we get some points taken off. Or if we don't explain something or regurgitate something in the exact way we were taught it, we get points taken off. If we don't get, that 1600 on that SAT, I don't know the latest, I don't know, is it 2400 now? I don't even know anymore. Whatever that high score, we're not good enough. If we don't get into this kind of a college, we're not good enough. If we don't find our first job by the time we are, in our final semester of college, we're not good enough. If we don't get our first promotion within the first 6 months, we're doing something wrong. We're not good enough. All of those. So she addressed all of those and realized there are just uncertainties. And then she went out and she made tons of mistakes. Fast forward just 2 years later, after all of this work. Now, this work is also constant work. So it's never ending work. This is something that you have to periodically do all the time. But fast forward to 2 years later, and this person, me, is an award-winning diversity business leader, an entrepreneur with 2 brands, somebody that actually gets paid to be able to do exactly the kind of work that she thrives in, that she knows is her purpose, that she knows she can support people with: diversity, equity, inclusion, and leadership work, right? And that's because here's what I want to share with you. The slide show now. Let me see if I can pull it up. There it is. Actually, let me make that bigger. Ta-da. So that's because this is the root. When we talk about believing in ourselves, this is what goes into believing in yourself. If you want to believe in yourself 100%, all the time, permanently, you have to be able to assess yourself objectively. You have to be able to look at your good and your not so good, your strengths and your weaknesses, your assets and your liabilities, your costs and your benefits, your profits and your losses. However you want to look at it, you have to be able to assess yourself on all of these spectrums without judging yourself, without saying that just because you are this way, it means you are not good enough. Because that not good enough thing is an illusion. It's a myth that we've created. It's a construct that we've created. In addition to the self-assessment, we have ego removal, because when we are assessing ourselves, we have to do that from a space of, a lot of the times when we engage in this talk, this self-talk, whether it's positive self-talk or negative self-talk, we come from a place of ego. What I mean by that is, this kind of self-talk, whether positive or negative, we use it either as an ego boost to make us feel better about ourselves or to make us feel superior. And we use that as a band-aid for our confidence, or we use it in negative ways to make us or somebody else feel inferior. All of those come from a place of ego, of this idea of, I have to be better than everybody else. If I have to win, that means everybody else has to lose. And that is not a good place for you to grow from. That is not believing in yourself, because that is you comparing yourself. And the second you start comparing yourself to somebody else, you no longer believe in yourself. Because at the end of the day, for you to believe in yourself, guess how many entities are involved in that picture? One, you. Your belief in yourself is 100% on you, nobody else. The second somebody else's opinion or judgment comes into the picture, you're now believing in yourself in the way that you should, to make it a permanent habit, right? When you assess yourself and when you stoke, and when you come from it from a place of not ego, just pure objective learning, two things happen, or actually all four of these other things happen. You start stoking your inner fires, because you start realizing what it is that makes you tick, what it is that makes you thrive. What do you enjoy the most? What don't you enjoy? What is like a root canal treatment for you? And then you can work on those things that you enjoy, which are then going to reinforce and feed back into you believing in yourself. For the parts that you don't enjoy, that's where your growth mindset comes in, your true growth mindset. Understanding that you're not going to be good at everything. Understanding that you don't have to be better than the 8 billion other people on this planet. That you just have to be yourself, and you have to keep learning and growing. Taking it back to that step 3 of making a ton of mistakes. When you take care of everything on the left side of this, the self-assessment, the ego removal, and the stoking your inner fire, that's when you step into true growth mindset. That's when you truly address your fears. And that's also when you are able to give gratitude to yourself and to everyone around you and everything around you. That helps you learn. That helps you grow. Again, all of those then continuously feed back into you believing in yourself more and more and more. And at that point, when you start fully believing in yourself, that's when you realize how much our perception makes up our reality, and how much us manifesting our dreams, going on these journeys of growth, going on these leadership journeys, going on these journeys of diversity, equity, and inclusion to dismantle these huge societal structural problems, everything from the micro level to the global macro level. All of that starts aligning and makes sense when you step out from a place of believing in yourself and believing that no matter what happens, you are going to learn something, you are going to be okay, and you are going to use your learning to constantly improve yourself and to constantly better the lives of those around you. That's it for me for today. I hope these steps help. Once again, just really quickly before I go, leave for today, the 3 steps are making your invisible visible, 2, addressing the source of your fears, and 3, making tons of mistakes and understanding that's okay. Once again, the actual implementation of this is very individualized depending on where you are in life. So if you want to have a conversation about this, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on my website, www.ajrao.com. Any of these methods. And I'm here for you, and I'm here to support you in every way that I can help you in your journey towards believing in yourself, because I believe in your inner power and I believe in your inner fire. So let's stoke it and bring it out so that we can all shine together. I'll be back on Friday with my Focus Friday live stream, but that's it for today for my Manifestation Monday. I hope you go out and I hope you manifest your belief in yourself today. And I hope these tips help. Talk to you next time. Bye.